I was thinking of a certain situation. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day where a group of guys, almost anywhere that I've ever lived or been, as far as I can tell, there's a group of guys, we're standing on the sidewalk having a conversation after coming out of somewhere where, we're all together. And an attractive woman walks by. In almost every case, there's like this need to stop talking and for someone to do something showing some sort of excitement, intensity, and sometimes creepiness. Like sometimes there'll be somebody that's just like, and I'll be like, why is that necessary? But it's pretty amazing to me consistently throughout my life, and especially where I grew up on the East Coast. It was like necessary to show your attraction to the attractive woman passing by. And that just got me thinking about all kinds of things related to that. Like, how does it feel on the other side? Why do men need to express it in that particular way? I totally get the idea of being attracted to the attractive woman, because I can't help noticing, if somebody I find attractive walks by as well. But I have discipline and respect, or whatever you would call it. But let me go to Ethan. I'm just kind of curious. Is this a phenomenon you're familiar with?
Yeah. Certainly.
Okay. Because it's like the most common thing in the world, or I don't know, you're I don't know,
Yeah,
different generation.
I mean, I think the acknowledgement could be extremely slight, like just some sort of fleeting eye contact or something extremely slight like that. But yes, it is normal in the sense of it happens. Yeah, it's kind of a default that would happen for sure in at least most of the time that I've spent alive. Yeah. Grace, you were making eyebrow.
Well, I just think it's funny that you went directly to Ethan first, when this phenomenon is what's happening to the woman. Like, yeah, you can acknowledge it, but he's like, yeah, I'm complicit in it. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, it's like, I'm curious why you didn't go to one of the women here first, because we're the ones that feel that intensity instead of Ethan. He's just standing there with his friends being like, oh yeah. So it's just interesting to me that you went to him first, when he seems to have less experience in the reciprocation of that.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy and talking about only my experience. I wanted to see somebody who grew up in a different place, who's a slightly different generation. And then, next I was going to say, okay, Grace or Maddie, what does it feel like to be on the other side of that?
Cool. I was just wondering if there was a reason for it. So that makes sense.
Yes, I'm noticing that you seem pissed off about that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to maybe share?
Well, I mean, I think that the way you phrased it, I just wasn't a fan of, because yeah, it's a kind of acknowledging of somebody being attractive, or it's an intensity and it's seen as like a cultural thing, but it makes a person, I don't know, Maddie can speak to it in a second, feel very unsafe. Because when, let's say your example, you and a group of friends are outside and I'm that person walking, I'm automatically going to feel like I'm unsafe right now. It doesn't matter if they're not catcalling me. They're just looking at me and being creepy like that. I'm going to start walking faster, and I'm probably going to take my pepper spray out and just put it in my pocket. Mm-hmm. And that's making me unsafe. And so I feel like when we talk about things like that in a manner of, oh, they're acknowledging their beauty, they're blah, 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 it's being complicit to the thing of, it's kind of harassing people, and nobody asked to be acknowledged about their appearance. Maddie, what do you think? That could just be me.
I see both sides, because for me, I'm sorry, do you guys hear this? No? Great. Wonderful. The AirPods are doing their job. For me, I feel conflicted, because I am a hyper curious person and I like to observe people, and like all people. I literally like to look at people. My boyfriend yelled at me the other day because we went to look at ruins here in Tulum. And he was like, why are you looking at so many people? And I was like, not only is this an opportunity for me to see the ancient Mayan ruins, but this is an opportunity for me to look at tourists from all over the world. And I love people, especially when I get to observe people from different cultures and backgrounds. So I feel split because I don't try to like just stare at people, but I like to take in and observe people because it's one of my greatest passions and curiosities in life. And sometimes that applies to noticing somebody's beauty. However, I always try to keep it to something respectful. I don't ever just like drool at somebody or anything like that. But I know exactly what you're talking about, Grace, with like having somebody's eyes on you and you feel weird or you feel uncomfortable. If I'm walking, especially late at night, during the day, I'm kind of like, whatever, I feel fine. But especially at night, if I see somebody staring at me, I grab my hydro flask, which is one of the reasons I always go everywhere with my hydro flask, is to me is it doubles as a weapon that I can like swing around. And so if that's the case, if I don't have the hydro flask in my hand and I can notice a guy looking at me at night, I will take my hydro flask out and kind of show that it's in my hand so that I can feel more protected and somebody can see that I have a possible weapon on me. So 100% I understand it. And on the other side, I see the curiosity to look at people and I recognize the conditioning that's happened for why men do this as well. And I would say women do this too. I mean, women go out to brunch and sit at a patio and will sit there and pick apart men and women the whole entire time with no shame about it whatsoever. So annoying enough, I see all sides of the situation.
Yeah, I would say that there's like what women are doing, I don't see any problem with in this scenario, because I actually think it's human to give and receive social feedback and to gossip and stuff like that. So I don't see a problem with that as long as you're not making the other person feel uncomfortable. What I do see a problem with is the male behavior, not any male behavior. I do think it's okay for a man to glance up at a woman, then realize, oh, if I keep staring, she's going to feel intimidated, because men are larger and more physically strong typically than a woman. It's just scary. I think that's the line. Looking is not the line, not even talking. I think that's fine too, but not talking to them and making them feel uncomfortable. Anyway, that's how I see it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not saying that you can't acknowledge people. I was talking about the scenario that you were giving where there's a group of guys and someone's like, oh my God, she's so hot. Like that's where it gets uncomfortable, when people start staring and making a deal of it. Like observing people is normal. Like, I'm like, that person's kind of cool. Okay, go about my day. But the making someone feel unsafe.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I should say I think I may have misunderstood the initial question then, because when I heard the word acknowledgement, I thought acknowledgement that the person being observed does not ever know about, meaning after someone has passed and is like walking 20 feet behind you or something, maybe exchanging a glance or something. I didn't mean the kind of interaction in which the person being observed hears something or something like that, which perhaps maybe I underestimate the extent to which someone might actually notice if after they've passed. I don't know, but that just to explain, that was my misunderstanding.
And to circle back, I will agree. If it's this obvious like group thing where you see a whole group of guys looking at you, I think it's disgusting. I think it's repulsive. I don't think men should do it. And I don't think women should do it either.
I guess I'm interested in the amount of energy that Grace had in the beginning, because I felt a little slightly attacked for something I didn't say. I'm kind of curious. Did you assume that I was saying it was okay to?
Well, just the way you're talking about accepting that that's just what's happening and that's just fine, like it just happens. I like, that's totally your experience and that's okay. But to me,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, I don't really think it's okay when people do this, but I'm going to acknowledge that they do it instead of, yeah, this is what happens. And I just watch my friends do it. And because to me, people, let's say you're in a group of friends and somebody's catcalling someone walking or being creepy, you're just as complicit if you're not saying, hey, let's not do that. That's not appropriate, or that's making that person feel uncomfortable. Because just because you're not doing it doesn't mean that you're not complicit in that action. If you're not like checking in on your friends and saying no.
That's an interesting point. I'm curious how you guys feel about that. So let's say you're with somebody and they are like looking at somebody and making them feel uncomfortable. If you do not say stop, are you complicit? Grace is making this statement.
I'll jump in. I don't see the world as black and white, and I think there are different levels to things. And I think while we would like to say the best people are the ones that stand up in difficult scenarios, and these are the people who actually mean what they say, I think, yeah, in some situations, yeah, like it's good to be a good friend, to be a good human, of course. Do I think that if you don't do it all the time that you're not a good person, or you don't have morals, or you don't strive for equality? No. For me, I consider myself a feminist, meaning that I want equality. I want toxic masculinity to disappear, not just for women, but for men. But I don't want to police people. Sometimes I make a statement if I feel in the mood to, because I do care about my fellow humans and progressing forward. And sometimes I'm not in the mood to. Sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes it slips by me and I don't really notice it, or I'm not paying attention. So I don't think there's any perfect way to be. And sometimes I think I believe this because of being on the both sides of it. Some of my friends who are really like woke and hip and like progressive with all of the things, they'll correct me on tiny little things of like, this is appropriate to say when we're talking about LGBTQ terms, or this is appropriate for protests, la la. And purely because I just did not know about things. And when they say it to me calmly and just like, hey, just so you know, it goes a lot longer that, or a lot further than when I feel like I'm being attacked and when I feel like I'm being embarrassed. I try to always take it with stride and like, oh, thank you. But I would just say like it goes further when you kind of handle it smoothly and calmly, and it's not this like constant in your face of, oh, don't say this, don't say that, or that's offensive. I just feel the kind of smoother, more gentle path I in my own experience has worked better for actually kind of gathering people to see your point of view.
I think from my perspective, I think the way I see it is probably pretty close to Grace. I don't know that I would frame it as like culpable, or complicit, but what I was thinking at Grace as you spoke was that with certain people, with most of the people that I spend the most time with, I would definitely say something, 100%. If somebody a good friend of mine that I was with, or if I was in a small group of people I knew, and somebody even so much as stared in an obvious way, I would like give them a little smack and be like, don't do that. Not a hard, I don't mean a painful, I would just mean like in a friendly way, like, be like, cut that out. But it's true that if I were in a different situation, which I felt much less comfortable, say I was with a group of people that I didn't know as well, people who were maybe like classmates rather than friends, you know what I mean? Like in a situation where there wasn't, I might on some automatic level not do that because of a fear of, I know, some sort of implicit fear of like that being rejected or something, you know what I mean? Like, and that is something that does not align with my values. Like, I don't want to change that just because I'm in a different group of people, but it would change. And that's, yeah, it would be nice. I would, and certainly if it were an extreme, if it were a big thing in any group of people, I'd still speak out. But I guess it's something to think about, the kind of like social aspect. What I'm thinking about is this kind of social aspect of it, that there is this like dependence on like whether, that I think is like from in like male society, like certain kind of things you don't want to, there's like a sense maybe early on that like you don't want to like put yourself out there by saying that something is bad. Like that could, when you're a kid, really get you in pretty deep waters. And maybe there's some sense that's like, it's still that could still be true, if it makes sense. That you'll be really like pushed out of the group if you're kind of too sensitive about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that factor is definitely there. Even people that would want to say something, some wouldn't because of an implicit threat of either violence or rejection, depending on the group. Could be something socially harmful or something physically harmful, depending, if you're a group of like tough guys, you would probably be less likely to do that, given that they're not friends, let's say. I feel a little pulled in between. I almost feel exactly the same as Maddie, in that I'm not given to correcting people's behavior among my friends. However, my values are pretty clear. I believe people should be free to make their own decisions as long as they're not harming other people. That's like my main thing in life. And I think it's critical that we give as much of that as possible. However, I also think it's critical we don't harm people. So when you're actually scaring somebody by being creepy, I do think it would be reasonable to be like, what are you doing? My bar would be higher than Ethan's, I think. I think I'm making the assumption, Ethan, that you are a little bit more like activist oriented or something. I don't mean that like actually like you're going to go out and hold a sign or something, but I don't know, I'm assuming that, maybe I'm wrong, but I am more likely to sit there and think about that person and just be like, I can't believe they're doing that. Maybe this will come up in a conversation later, but I don't usually stop and correct people's behavior. Yeah, I'll stop there.
I will say I do correct people's behavior. I just don't do it all of the time. I'm more of a pick and choose my battles. Do I think this will be effective?
Mhm.
Do I not? Am I just getting to know the person? Yeah, so for me, I don't have a problem for speaking up for what's right or my preferences or my values or my morals or whatever. That's no problem. I've been known by my family, by my friends, to be a very good arguer. So it's no problem. I just am more strategic with how I pick and choose my battles and how I go about it.
Do you think some of that is you being conflict avoidant?
I am definitely conflict avoidant. It's weird because I will get into an argument no, I will do it. I've done it my whole life with my grandfather, who was a lawyer, and in college. More now, so I would say, and more subdued, because I believe each and every person has a certain amount of energy to give each and every day. And this is sacred. Our energy is sacred. And Grace, you're in school. You probably need to spend a lot of energy on studying, and we need to dispense a certain amount of energy on cooking and working and la la la. So it's more of picking and choosing where I'm going to dispense my energy and prioritizing it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I see it. And just seeing where it's going to be effective. If I try to make some kind of more subtle comment and I see it's going nowhere, then let it go. It's not worth my time and energy. So I think as I've gotten older, I've become a bit less feisty and kind of step back and say, is this going to be effective or not? Should I spend my time and energy or not?
I think like there's a issue or a subject coming up from this that I find interesting, which is the idea of saying something, the way that you say something. I think if you scold the person that's talking, they are possibly going to be embarrassed in the future and not do it again, or do it less, or wait until they get a lot of reinforcement to the contrary before they do it again. You could also just alienate them by doing that. I don't feel that people react well to scolding generally, or to being forced. I think it's so much more powerful to try to talk to them and take as much emotion out of it as possible in trying to get into why they feel that way, and sharing with them your perspective and letting them know that you kind of, can accept either one. Maybe you're not going to want to be as close with them if they're always doing something that really bothers you, but without scolding. There's something about scolding I feel is ineffective, or pressuring, or embarrassing, or forcing. However, I think it's used a tremendous amount nowadays because it makes people feel better. So I guess I want to differentiate between, do you say something because it makes you feel better, or because you're trying to make change? And if you're trying to make change, do you feel it's effective to do it the way you're doing?
I think it's to make change, and it's over the years I've definitely worked on and learned. I'm not perfect at it, obviously, how to de-escalate situations that I think, like for example, someone being creepy to someone, instead of just saying, hey, you're a creep, I'm gonna punch you in the face, like that's probably not gonna work out very well. But it depends on how you know them, and just saying, hey, yeah, I know that you probably thought that was cool, but that girl is really uncomfortable. And I just know that you probably didn't mean to do that, but that I'm just letting you know your actions did make her uncomfortable. And I always play on the, you probably weren't intending that, but this is what the reality was. So in your head, it's a compliment. In her mind, it's very fearful. But the way you say things definitely, I think, can help either make you actually help have change or make yourself feel better. And there's the difference.